and I'm going to demonstrate how to paint a couple of leaves here. So the first leaf is this one here, and it's got a lot of yellow and some green in it. So I like to mix with my sticks. So I'm going to take my Aurelian yellow here, add it to the first two wells, add a little bit of water, so I've got yellow, and I'm going to mix some cobalt blue in my second one to get a green. Yeah, I want a more bluey green than that, so I'll grab some more blue here. Okay. That looks good. Okay. So what I'm going to do to get this leaf is I'm going to paint it with yellow first. Then I'm going to add dots of green. And then I'm going to use a palette knife. Now instead of a palette knife, you could use a credit card or something like that. But I'm going to use a palette knife. So I've got Laurel yellow here that I'm going to paint the leaf with. And I have to do this while it's wet. Everything's while it's wet. So I'm going to paint my leaf. And then I'm going to go into my green. And I'm going to add touches of green here. And then while it's still wet, I'm going to use my palette knife and drag through for the veins. So I'm going to put my center vein in first, and then I'm going to put my other veins. So there you go, there's our first leaf. Now the second leaf I'm going to do is an oak leaf. And I'm going to paint that right here. The colors I use for that are burnt sienna with a bit of neutral. So first I'll make a well of burnt sienna here. I'll go into my burnt sienna and then add a little bit of water to that. And then I'll add a touch of neutral. Add a little bit more neutral. I'm adding a bit at a time, because I can't take the neutral away, but I can keep adding. So here is my burnt sienna and neutral color. So fairly close to my oak leaf here. So same technique as I used over there. Although to get into some of the tiny corners, I'm going to use my number 1 brush. So I am painting into those corners. And for the bigger areas, I'm going to switch back to my number 6 brush. For the corners, I go back to my number 1 brush. Try and get those corners as pointed as I can. So I use my skinny brush to get into those corners. And then when I'm in the bigger areas, go back to my bigger number 6 brush. I have to move quickly because I want to score the veins in this as well while it's still wet. Back to my number 6. When you're just starting out, it's good to tackle smaller leaves first. And so back to my number 6 brush. So I'm going to go as quickly as I can because while it's still wet, I have to score it. That stem down as well. Okay, so now I'm going to take my tool here and score down the center, and then I notice that the veins in this all come from the points. You don't have to worry about doing all the veins, but the major veins are good to get in. Okay, and while that's still wet, I'm going to put touches of neutral, just to add a little bit of interest, because sometimes they're starting to decay, and so these little black dots can show that this leaf is starting to decay. Okay, so that was a quick little lesson on painting leaves, and it gives you an idea of what you can expect in one of my online Zoom watercolor classes. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do paint something, feel free to post it to Art Lessons with Laurel and share the group with friends. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody.